Most women miss this completely, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. A man can talk to you for an hour and still hide how he feels, but the first few seconds of how he greets you often tell the truth faster than anything else. Not the words alone, the energy, the pause, the way his face changes when he notices you, the way he says your name like it suddenly matters more than the room around him. That tiny moment can reveal excitement, desire, nervousness, even emotional attachment before he has time to cover it up. And that is exactly why this matters, because some men will never say, "I really like you," at least not early on, but their hello will say it for them if you know what to watch. In this video, we are breaking down the quiet signs hidden inside a man's greeting so you can stop guessing, stop replaying every interaction in your head, and start seeing what is actually right in front of you. Stay with me, because one of the biggest signs is so subtle that most women mistake it for nothing. And yet once you catch it, everything starts to make sense. By the end of this, you will hear "hey" in a completely different way. And if you have ever walked away from a moment thinking, "Wait, did that mean something?" This is for you. Because sometimes the truth of how he feels shows up before the conversation even begins. The reason this works is simple. Men do not always express attraction with direct words, especially at the beginning. It is not always because they are cold or unsure. A lot of the time they feel something strongly, but they do not want to expose it too fast. So instead of saying it clearly, they reveal it through behavior, through attention, through the shift in their body and voice when you appear. When a man feels drawn to you, his system reacts before his mind can organize the perfect sentence. He may become more alert, his focus may sharpen, his posture may change. He may lean in without meaning to, smile too quickly, or suddenly look like he cares a little too much about how he is standing. This is where attraction becomes visible. Not in grand speeches, but in the small cracks where real feeling slips out. And what makes greetings so powerful is that they happen fast. There is no time for a full performance, no time to plan, just a quick emotional reaction, raw and honest. Sometimes it looks smooth, sometimes it looks awkward, but both can mean interest. That is important, because women often think confidence is the sign, when many times nervousness is the louder signal. So if he seems a little clumsy, a little too casual, or oddly quiet when he first sees you, do not dismiss it too fast. He may not be relaxed because he feels nothing. He may be tense because he feels too much. Keep watching, because the next sign is where his emotions get even harder to hide. Let's start with the eyes, because before a man says a single word, his eyes usually speak first. When he is truly happy to see you, there is often a visible spark. His face wakes up. His eyes sharpen and soften at the same time. He is not just looking in your direction, he is locking onto you. That is a huge difference. A casual glance is quick and empty. Real interest has presence. He may hold eye contact a beat longer than normal. He may scan your face slowly, like he is taking in every detail. He may even freeze for half a second, as if his brain needed a moment to catch up with the fact that you just walked in. That pause matters. It often means your presence landed. And if he looks away, then comes back again, that can be just as revealing. A lot of men do this when they are intrigued but trying not to make it obvious. Watch for softness too. A man who feels something real will often look at you with warmth, not just intensity. There is a kind of attention in his gaze that feels focused, calm, and emotionally present. He is not distracted. He is not scanning the room for someone else. He is there with you. And yes, context matters. If he avoids eye contact completely, that can mean discomfort, shyness, or emotional distance. But if you notice a pattern where his eyes always find you, always brighten a little, always seem to say more than his mouth does, that is not nothing. That is often the first whisper of attraction, and in a moment, I will show you why the way he says your name can be even more revealing than the look itself. Now listen carefully to his voice, because tone gives away what words try to hide. A man may say something simple like, "Hey, how are you?" But the emotional truth is buried in how he says it. When he likes you, his voice often changes without him even noticing. It may become warmer, softer, more alive. He may say your name slower, like he wants to stay in the moment just a little longer. Or he may speak faster than usual, almost like the excitement rushed out before he could control it. Both can be signs. Attraction does not always sound smooth. Sometimes it sounds slightly off, and that is exactly the point. If his voice hesitates, if he clears his throat, if there is a tiny pause before your name, that can be the sound of emotion entering the room. Some men get louder around the woman they like, not in a bad way, but in a natural effort to be noticed. Others go lower and more intimate, like their body is trying to reduce the distance between you. Pay attention to how personal the greeting feels. Does he use your name often? Does it sound different when he says it than when other people do? Does his greeting carry an energy that feels more thoughtful than routine? These details matter because when a man is emotionally touched by someone, his voice often loses its usual flatness. It carries color, feeling. That little extra warmth is not random. And here is the part many people miss. Even if the words are ordinary, the emotional weight behind them can make them feel special. That is why one simple hello from the right person can stay in your head all day. And we are only getting started because the body often confirms what the eyes and voice begin to reveal. A man's body tells the truth quickly, faster than his words, faster than his polished image. If you want to know what he feels when he greets you, watch what his body does in those first few seconds. Does he turn fully toward you, not just with his face, but with his chest, shoulders, and feet? That is focus. That is interest. When a man likes you, his body often orients itself towards you, as if the rest of the room has faded. He may stand taller, straighten up, pull his shoulders back, adjust his jacket, shirt, or sleeves, run a hand through his hair. These are not just random habits. They are often tiny signs that he suddenly became more aware of himself because you are there. He wants to look good. He wants to feel ready. He may lean in slightly, close the space between you, or linger a little longer than necessary after saying hello. That matters too. Attraction often shows up as a desire to stay near. And then there is mirroring. If he starts matching your pace, your tone, your body language, that can signal emotional alignment. It happens naturally when someone feels connected. Notice his smile too, not the polite smile he gives everyone, the real one, the one that reaches his eyes, softens his face, and stays longer than social manners require. That smile says, "I am genuinely happy to see you." And if he offers warm, respectful touch, like a brief hand on your arm, a full hug, or a gentle touch on your back, that can reveal comfort and desire for closeness. None of these signs alone prove everything, but together they create a pattern. And patterns tell stories. So keep listening, because his words themselves can carry more meaning than most people realize. The actual words he chooses in a greeting can be simple, but when a man cares, even simple words become personal. A man who feels neutral may greet you with low effort. "Hey, what's up? Yo." There is nothing wrong with that, but it usually does not carry much emotional investment. A man who is truly into you often adds detail. He uses your name. He asks about something specific you mentioned before. He brings back a small memory from a past conversation. How did that meeting go? Did you ever fix that problem? How was your day? That is more than politeness. That is stored attention. And attention is one of the clearest forms of attraction. If he remembers small things, it means you stayed in his mind after the moment ended. That is big. He may even create little private language between you, a nickname, an inside joke, a playful phrase that only makes sense to the two of you. That is how emotional intimacy often begins, quietly, naturally, one small layer at a time. Even in text, you can feel it. If his messages come quickly, if his greetings have warmth, humor, or a small touch of care, if a basic "hey" somehow feels full of emotion, trust that feeling. Sometimes men reveal themselves not through long paragraphs, but through consistency, timing, and subtle effort. A fast reply, a check-in that feels thoughtful, a good morning that lands softly but clearly. These are not giant declarations, but they are breadcrumbs, and if you pay attention, they often lead straight to the truth. Stay with me, because there is another layer that can confuse women the most, and that is when a man likes you deeply but hides it behind awkwardness. Not every man shows interest in a smooth or obvious way. In fact, some of the strongest attraction looks messy in real life. He may seem too casual, too quiet, slightly tense. He may greet you and then immediately look away. He may stumble over his words, laugh at the wrong moment, or act like he is trying too hard to be normal. That does not always mean he is uninterested. Sometimes it means the exact opposite. Some men become awkward around the woman they want most because they suddenly care how they are coming across. They are not relaxed because the stakes feel higher. You matter more, so the moment feels bigger. This is where many women misread the situation. They think, if he liked me, he would be smoother. Not always. Sometimes real attraction disrupts rhythm. It creates nerves. It makes a confident man slightly unsure and a talkative man strangely quiet. Look at the full picture. Does he still find ways to be near you? Does he remember details? Does his energy shift when you arrive? Does he seem more alert, more careful, more emotionally affected than usual? Those signs can be louder than charm. Also notice whether he tries again. A man who feels nothing usually stays flat. A man who fumbles because he cares often circles back. He starts another conversation, sends another message, finds another excuse to reconnect. That effort matters. And here is a retention point you do not want to miss. One of the clearest signs of hidden interest is not perfection, it is emotional recovery. He may not nail the greeting, but he cannot stop trying to reconnect after it. That tells you a lot about where his heart is leaning. There is also an energy you can feel, even when it is hard to explain. You walk into a room and something changes. He notices, the air shifts, his attention sharpens. Maybe he stops what he is doing for a second. Maybe his face softens. Maybe he lights up in a way that would be easy to miss if you were not looking closely. This kind of emotional signal matters because attraction is not just visual or verbal. It is atmospheric. You feel it in the way he becomes more present, more tuned in, more available. He may make space for you physically. He may angle his body to include you. He may slow down when speaking, as if the moment deserves more care. Or he may seem suddenly full of nervous energy because your presence affects him. This is where intuition becomes important. Not fantasy, not overthinking. Intuition, the quiet inner sense that says, that felt different. Women often talk themselves out of what they clearly felt because they do not want to assume too much. But if a man consistently greets you with warmth, remembers little things, treats you differently, and carries an emotional charge in your presence, it is worth trusting your perception. You do not need to turn every moment into a love story, but you also do not need to deny what is obvious simply because it is subtle. Real interest is often subtle before it becomes clear. And if you are still with me, here is where it gets even more powerful, because what you do in response can either open the connection naturally or shut down the emotional space before it has time to grow. When you notice these signs, the best response is not to chase, force, or rush the meaning of everything. The strongest move is to receive the energy well. Meet it with calm warmth. Let your eyes hold his for one extra beat. Let your smile stay a little longer. Speak with ease, not pressure. A man who is revealing genuine interest through his greeting is often looking for one thing more than anything else: emotional safety. He wants to feel that he can come closer without being shut down, judged, or made to feel foolish. That does not mean you must overgive. It does not mean you should start doing all the work. It means you allow room. If his greeting feels thoughtful, respond with thoughtfulness. If he remembers something about your life, let him know you noticed. If he says your name warmly, answer with warmth. Simple lines can go a long way. "It's always nice hearing from you. That was sweet of you to remember. You always make me smile when you say that." These kinds of responses encourage connection without chasing it. They reward effort. And that matters. Men often move closer when they feel their effort lands well. At the same time, stay grounded in your value. Do not start bending over backward just because he seems interested. Let the connection breathe. Let him keep showing you who he is. Match energy, but do not outrun it. That balance is powerful. It creates attraction without confusion. It keeps your self-respect intact while allowing intimacy to build naturally. And if this is resonating, the final part ties everything together, because the deepest sign is not in one hello, but in the pattern that forms over time. One warm greeting can be meaningful, but repeated warmth tells a deeper story. If a man consistently lights up when he sees you, consistently remembers details, consistently finds ways to connect, and consistently greets you with more care than he gives others, that is when attraction starts becoming hard to deny. This is where you stop looking for one giant dramatic sign and start paying attention to steady emotional behavior. Does he show up? Does he greet you in a way that feels intentional, even on ordinary days? Does he make the small moments feel like they matter? Real feelings often reveal themselves in repetition. He keeps noticing you, keeps responding, keeps leaning in, keeps making the interaction feel personal. That kind of consistency carries more truth than big words spoken once. It tells you that your presence is not just exciting to him in the moment, it has become important to him, and that is the shift. At first, attraction may look like sparks, nerves, and chemistry, but when it begins to turn into something deeper, it starts showing up as steadiness. He does not only want your attention, he values your presence. He does not only react when you appear, he makes emotional space for you. And that is where many real relationships begin, not with a loud confession, not with some perfect movie scene, but with repeated little moments where one person keeps saying, in every quiet way possible, "I am glad you are here." Do not miss that, because some of the strongest feelings in the world first appear in the smallest moments, and the people who recognize that early often save themselves a lot of confusion later. So the next time a man greets you, do not rush past it like it means nothing. Slow down and really notice. Notice whether his face changes when he sees you. Notice whether his eyes stay with you. Notice if his voice softens, brightens, or carries a private kind of warmth. Notice if his body turns toward you, if he moves closer, if he smiles like your arrival genuinely changed the mood of his day. Notice the words too, the effort, the memory, the little touch of care hidden inside something that sounds simple on the surface. And above all, notice the feeling underneath it all. Because when a man is truly affected by you, his greeting is rarely just a greeting. It is often the first honest thing he gives away. Sometimes it says, "I missed you." Sometimes it says, "You matter to me." Sometimes it says, "I do not fully understand what I feel yet, but I know I feel something when you are near." And when it is real, you can often sense the difference. It feels easier, not more confusing, warmer, not colder, clearer, even when it is quiet. That is the beauty of it. Real interest does not always arrive loudly, but it leaves clues everywhere. In the eyes, in the voice, in the body, in the effort, in the way a simple hello can carry the weight of something much deeper. And if you learn to read those moments well, you stop begging for clarity and start recognizing it as it happens. That is when dating changes. That is when your intuition gets stronger. That is when you stop chasing mixed signals and start seeing genuine ones for what they are. And here is the final truth. When you are deeply connected to your own worth, you become much better at recognizing when someone is showing up with real feeling. You stop trying to turn crumbs into a feast, but you also stop ignoring sincere effort just because it is quiet. You can tell the difference between someone being polite and someone being emotionally moved by your presence. And that changes everything. Because love, attraction, and real connection do not always begin with giant statements. Very often, they begin with tiny moments that feel strangely powerful. A hello that lands differently, a look that lingers, a voice that softens, a smile that feels too real to fake. A man trying, maybe awkwardly, maybe gently, maybe in ways so small that other people would miss them, but still trying to let you feel that you matter. That is how many meaningful stories begin, quietly, naturally, without noise. So if you have been noticing these signs, do not brush them away. Let them register, let them teach you, let them sharpen your ability to read what is true. And if his greeting keeps carrying warmth, intention, attention, and emotional presence, there is a good chance you are not imagining it at all. You may be witnessing the beginning of something honest, something real. And sometimes the deepest connections do not start with fireworks. They start with a simple hello that feels like home.